Hello, Team Nova, and welcome to The Weight of Waiting, Take 2. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Kim Lee, SVP of PT, and I also want to give a special shout out to Dr. Montplaisir and the PT Professional Development Team who were instrumental in creating this presentation. I also want to recognize the CPTG work group. That is Dr. O from Medical, Angela Andropont from Center Operations, and Dr. Juvenal Chacon from Physical Therapy. Let's face it, we all hate waiting. Our time is valuable, and so to spend it sitting in a lobby, or worse, sitting in an exam room with the door closed, wondering if you've been forgotten about, is about as miserable as it gets for some people. In order to keep this frustration in check, we here at Nova have set some standard expectations for how long an average visit should take. It's important to note that these are goals. These times are not set in stone, and there are times where a longer or shorter duration is appropriate. Also know, we do not start the clock on duration times until after the patient has completed their paperwork and is checked into Ocuflex. With that being said, our goal for injury times is to average below 70 minutes. The goal for follow-ups is to average below 30 minutes, and the goal for all pre-employment services is to average below 30 minutes. We do keep a running clock on all services from the time the patient is checked in until they leave the center, as well as how long each particular service took. So other than trying to keep our patients happy, why do we keep this running clock? Why do we keep a time on each particular activity that a patient has on each visit? Well, it actually is a great insight for us to be able to reflect on how well are we doing what it is we say that we're doing. In other words, are we able to deliver the product that we say we are? It's a measure of how efficient is the check-in process. Did the patient need help with intake forms? With e-intake, we know that some patients are troubled with the electronic side of it. This is why we don't start our time until after the patient has completed this process. Once the e-intake is completed or the manual intake is completed, we want to know, like, how good are we at taking the medical history? How good are we at getting the vitals? How quick are we able to get that information into the system so that the next provider can continue the process? And then at the provider level, it also gives us insight as to where we have opportunities to perform our initial evaluation or physical exam better. Where are there holdups? Where are there delays? And how can we help our providers move through more efficiently? Then we can look at some of the more advanced services. How efficient are we at performing x-rays or administering an injection? Some patients are very sensitive to injections and they need extra time, and we need to spend more time with them, making sure there's no adverse effect of that injectable. How good are we at communicating when something additional is needed, when we need extra time to get the patient over their fear of needles? How good are we at letting somebody know that the patient is done and ready for the next step? Once everything is done in the back, how good are we at getting the patient back up to the front and getting them scheduled for any further services that may be required? That all takes a lot of coordination and a lot of communication in order for it to be done efficiently and effectively for our patients. This is why we monitor our times as the patient receives each of their services throughout their visit with us. So, in summary, monitoring duration times helps us better understand patient flow and how long a service takes. It's a measure of how efficiently a team works together to provide services to our clients. Now, let's take a look at some examples and discuss at the centers if we have opportunities to improve any of our processes and streamline the patient experience while still providing outstanding clinical care. Here is an example of what it looks like on the queue for a new injury. You can see there's both a running clock from the time we started with the patient until the time we were finished, as well as the amount of time spent on each service the patient received. Can you identify any areas where we could have been more efficient in moving the patient through the system? Where could we be better? How can we improve this? Or is it perfect just the way it is? Here's another example for you. This is of a pre-employment encounter. Does everything look good to you, or are there opportunities to move the patient through any faster? If there were any delays, what might be causing them? And more importantly, what can we do to prevent those delays next time? These are all things that we should be thinking about when we look at our CPTGs for duration times. Whether or not you actually get any points for it is beside the point. How well are we working together as a team to provide the best care for our patients? In closing, everyone's time is valuable. Whether you're a patient, a provider, or a team member just trying to make it through the day. By working together as a team, we can help make everybody's day a little bit better and spending less time sitting and waiting around. On our next CPTG episode, we'll be providing some tips and tricks for each department so that we can all successfully work together to manage our duration times. Thank you for listening today. If you have any questions or comments about CPTGs, please feel free to reach out to the CPTG email at cptg@nova.com. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.